Okay, welcome to Pod Potatoes. My name is Mark Selzer. My guest is my longtime collaborator and musical cohort in arms, my political cohort in arms, my fellow libertarian, Todd Taylor. It was weird. I had people play for me that have like the same names. I had Todd Taylor, and then who was that other guy with the same name? Oh, I can't remember. Todd Taylor, and then it was he lives in Hawaii in the forest now.
Oh,
Tommy Tompkins. I used to play with Tommy Tompkins and Todd Taylor. Someday, hopefully, I'll have Tommy Tompkins on. But there's a SoundCloud with me playing with Tommy Tompkins, so we'll give it a shot. So anyway, I met Todd at an open mic. Todd, I was playing my songs off of I was playing them off of I found like, just music on YouTube, and I was playing the songs with the YouTube, and the YouTube songs kept like cutting out in the middle of the performances. So Todd said he wanted to help me out on the song, so we did some amazing stuff with Todd. But I think what we'll do now is we'll have Todd. Want to play one of your songs?
Hey man, it's Pod Potatoes.
It's Pod Potatoes. It's everything.
It's what you want, man.
Why don't you
in charge.
Here? Why don't we play a song with have Todd play a song right now?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Can you do it?
Yeah, I can do it, man.
Then we could try to play.
Okay.
We could try to play one of my songs.
All right.
See how it goes.
All right. So this one I'll play Bullfrogs.
All right.
Yeah,
Here's Todd Taylor doing Bullfrogs.
all day long. I'll do my thing and we will get along. Early to rise and I'm quick on my feet. Always a friend ahead of me. Well, you can fly real high, and you can fly real low. Yes, I can see you in your wobbly, wobbly stroll. 1 second later, you are here no more, 'cause he's a bullfrog. I'm the friendliest bullfrog sitting out eating bugs in the yard, burping up all that watery pond, eating burp in the moonshine, burp all the time. I burp all the time. I burp all day long, 'cause I eat those bugs. Skin is shiny and legs are long, got small thoughts that they call his own. Got pretty eyes and legs from time. He's all friendly and agreeable.
All right, that was Todd Taylor doing Bullfrog. That was really great. Never heard that one before.
Yeah, man.
That's very apropos for my Mark Selzer Pod Potatoes podcast. It's about eating bugs.
Yeah, man. Bullfrog
You know?
eats all day.
I used to have a bullfrog, and it was like about the size of a dinner plate, and it used to bark. It was like this. It is called a pixie frog, and it's an African frog. And when they're little, when they're born, if one of their brothers or sisters isn't big enough, they'll eat them.
Yeah.
And then when they go to mate, all the girls will get by the pond and start croaking and barking, and it'll attract the males, and the males will come around. If some of the males haven't grown big enough, then one of the larger males will eat some of the smaller males, or one of the smaller males, to make himself appear bigger. That way they'll be more attractive to the females, and so you get these like giant barking frogs. Used to feed it rats. It used to, if you put it on a white piece of paper, it would turn like a really light green with these beautiful colors on the back, and put it on a black piece of paper, it would turn like really dark green with these beautiful markings, and underneath them they're bright yellow. They're beautiful. Look them up. One day he died, though. I was very sad because he was a frog with a personality.
You can learn a lot from Bullfrog.
Yeah, I just used to look at him, and he was just such an absurd creature. He looked like just a horribly fat person, and people would look at the frog and say, is he supposed to be like that? Because he looked like he was horribly obese. And they didn't know that he ate frogs. I thought they think they eat lettuce. I remember I was at art school once, and there was this girl who caught a frog, and she had all this lettuce in there. I'm like, no, frogs do not eat lettuce. They eat bugs. You have to go get him bugs or he'll starve. They don't. I thought they ate leaves and stuff. Nope, they eat bugs. And little mice. Get him a little mouse, and he will be happy.
I heard they eat birds.
They can eat birds, too, yeah. They can even eat snakes and other frogs. They do. The pixie frogs he's in, in fact, this is the only frog that has a tooth. It has like a little tooth. It's actually a bone, but it's like a tooth. And they say if he grabs onto your hand, don't try to get him to let go, because you'll just cut yourself. You just have to wait until he figures out you're too big to swallow, and then he'll just let you go, because he thinks you're something to eat.
Way.
Anyway, that's my bullfrog story to go with Todd's bullfrog song. You know, one of the songs that I would sing, I sing a lot about my childhood and tell a lot of jokes about my childhood. Maybe we could try to do Stinky Dean. We haven't done Stinky Dean in a long time. Want to try to do it?
Yeah, if we can, yeah.
If I could even remember how it goes.
I don't think we did that one a lot.
We did. We didn't do it a lot, huh? Stinky Dean. When I was a kid, there lived down the street a little boy whose mom had 30 cats you could eat. Cats you could meet, not eat. You didn't want to eat his cats. When I was a kid, there lived down the street a little boy whose mom had 30 cats you could meet. They called him Stinky Dean, Stinky Dean, Stinky Dean. But don't call him Stinky Dean, 'cause it's not his fault. It's his mother's 30 cats. We used to take Stinky Dean out on the Cub Scout campouts, and all the parents would warn us very sternly not to call him Stinky Dean, Stinky Dean, Stinky Dean. 'Cause it's not his fault, it's his mother's 30 cats. It's his mother's 30 cats. I always wondered what happened to Stinky Dean. Did he meet a stinky girl Didn't meet a stinky girl and live happily ever after. Did they have some stinky kids? Some stinky kids, and live happily as a stinky family. And the neighbor said, don't call them the stinky family, 'cause it's not their fault. It's the grandma's 60 cats. It's the grandma's 60 cats. And that's the end of my Stinky Dean song. Shed a tear everywhere for Stinky Dean, wherever you are. All right, man. That was cool. We didn't quite have it, but it still was pretty cool. There was some nice stuff in there, you know. And that was a real guy. That's an actual real person I knew down the street named Stinky Dean. And you know, my parents used to get mad at me because I'd call him Stinky Dean. I say everybody called him Stinky Dean. He was a real dude. So you were this guy, this amazing guitarist actually works in a junkyard. So get this guy out of his junkyard.
Hours a day.
Todd Taylor, find him and buy his CD. Do you still have any CDs?
I don't have any of my first record, but I'm gonna get some more soon.
Do you have and you have a second record coming out?
It's coming out.
And you have a SoundCloud.
Yeah, I do have a SoundCloud.
So it's SoundCloud.
I think it's T.S. Taylor.
T.S. Taylor.
Yeah.
So see if you can find it. There's actually us doing a Bug Fight too, which is our biggest hit. I don't know if we could do Bug Fight. We'll be screaming and yelling out here. I don't know if we can. It's a song with a lot of shots. It's a punk rock song, and all we have is an acoustic guitar. Should we try to do Bug Fight? All right, let's give it a shot. So this is going to be a quiet Bug Fight because we're doing this in a parking lot. This is pod potatoes in a parking lot. Impromptu impromptu. I made a tongue twister for myself. Impromptu pod potatoes in a parking lot with Todd Taylor.
Be there in just a second. We're doing a podcast.
Trying to call us back in. They're trying to call us away.
Lure us away.
Lure us away. All right, so here we go. When I was little, I used to have this jar. It was a mayonnaise jar. And I took the labels off so you could see inside. And then I put every single bug that I could in the jar so they'd fight each other. And I poked some holes in the top so they could breathe. And they just hated each other. Bugs hate each other because there's no such thing as tolerance in the bug world. Bugs just hate each other when you put them in a jar. I used to love to watch them fight. I called it my bug fight, bug fight, bug fight. Now one day I took my bug fight down to Johnny's house, and Johnny's mom answered the door, and she said, "Well, what do you want to see Johnny for?" And I said, "I want to show my bug fight." And she looked at my bug fight very disapprovingly, and she said, "Well, that's not very nice." And so she went and got Johnny, and she told him, "Don't like the bug fight." But when Johnny saw it, he said, "Wow! That's a really cool bug stuck a praying mantis in there. And it killed every single bug in the jar. It was really cool. Even the little pill bugs that none of the other bugs could kill, it would pry it open with its little legs and chomp its guts out. It was so cool. Sometimes you could put a bee in there with a spider, and they would fight. Sometimes the bee would kill the spider. Sometimes the spider would kill the bee. It was really cool. They had little bug matches. Sometimes the grasshopper would kill the spider by hitting with the spikes on the back of his legs. Sometimes the spider would crawl the little ball in the corner of the jar and die. It was so cool. It was little bug matches. It's like I invented the UFC 40 years before there was a UFC. I used to call it my bug fight, bug fight, bug fight. Then one day my dad saw the bug fight, and he said, "Well, that's not very nice to the bugs, son. You're going to have to pour that out." And I said, "Oh, no, Dad, please, 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 I really love my bug fight, please let me keep my bug fight." And he said, "Well, you can keep it for another hour, but then you have to pour it out." So I went and I showed it to all the other kids, and they all thought it was really rad. They didn't see what the problem was, and I put some more bugs in there and watched them fight. It was so cool. But then my dad came, and he said, "All right, the hour's up. You're going to have to pour it out." So I poured it out, and he watched me, and I was very sad. But I kept the jar. And from then on, I had to have a secret bug fight, bug fight, bug fight, bug fight. That's bug fight. Wow, you really blow out my vocal cords when I do that song. It's very difficult.
It's worth it. It's like that.
That's what the song that everybody loves. I think Stinky Dean and probably Bug Fight, those are my two biggest. Maybe Alone in the Universe. I wish we had some echo so I could do Alone in the Universe. Why don't you do another song now?
Another one?
Yeah. This is a musical podcast.
Let's see here.
Love Key?
Love Key, yeah, I can do Love Key.
Maybe either one, whichever one you want to do.
Love Key's cool.
All right.
This was the first record. Man.
Let's hit it. you know, when you play the guitar, it sounds like, you know, that's all you need. You know, so many other people, you know, you need drums, you need a bass.
Yeah.
But it's fully realized. It's amazing how well you can play guitar. Do you have time to practice? You mean you're actually a better guitar player now than the last time that I heard you. Do you actually have time to practice when you're working in the junkyard?
When I come home, I play until I fall asleep.
Oh, really? Oh, that's good, man. Well, it's, you know, the guitar playing is even more amazing than it's been in the past. So it's just incredible. What can I say?
I even actually messed up there, but you know, it's.
No one knows. I didn't hear anything. You know, you're making corrections. I used to have this guy when I was in art school, and he would practice the violin, and he'd play these kind of complex things by Bach and other people like that. And he would start, and then he would go fuck. He would stop, and then he'd start at the beginning again. And they'd go fuck. He'd stop. He'd get a little bit further, and then he'd go fuck, and he would stop. And I told him, man, you can't do that. You've got to just keep going to the next chord, because the reason you're messing up is the anticipation of fucking up. You need to go from the beginning to the end, no matter how many times you fuck up. And then the first time you'll fuck up 20 times, the second time you'll fuck up, 19 times, the 10th time you'll fuck up 18 or 15 times, and then you'll get it down. But you got to go from the beginning to the end and never stop. Because no one knows. Everyone listens to that, and they just think, wow, that's fantastic. Wish you could play guitar like that. People always say, if you're going to sing songs, why don't you just learn to play a few cheesy chords? And, you know, I can actually pick up a guitar and actually fake it a little bit. Yeah. But, you know, there's no point in me doing that, you know? It's just kind of ridiculous. Maybe we should try, oh man, I haven't done Drunken Cub Master in a long time, huh? I used to have this, go ahead and like play the intro and I'll just talk, talk it in. You know, I used to have this routine I did about my father being the Drunken Cub Master at PAC 648. So I thought I would sing it as a country song, because it sounds like a country song, you know? And it goes, you know, my father, a little bit about my father. My father was kind of a drunken German guy that was grumpy all the time. I guess that made him a sauerkraut. He was a very strange man. He was a very dark man. He used to bury me in the yard, in the dirt, so I'd grow up big and strong. He was a kindergartner. My father was the Drunken Cub Master of PAC 648, Hacienda Heights, California. In these United States of America. Yes, my father, he was the Drunken Cub Master of PAC 648. He used to take us on these Cub Scout campouts, the whole PAC 648, and the other parents, now they'd bring their cars, of course. They'd bring their cars, they'd start their cars, and then we would take off. We would take off into the forest, whatever forest my dad had picked out where there was a trail and a campground. And while the other parents were roasting their marshmallows over the open fire and cooking hot dogs and hamburgers, my dad would be out behind the pup tent getting shit-faced. Because, you know, when my dad was drunk, he was a nice guy. But when he was sober, he was an asshole. So when he went to the Cub Scout meetings, he was always drunk. So they thought he was a nice guy, and they made him Cub Master. Now, sometimes my dad, he'd run out of beer, and he'd send me back to the car to get more. And there I'd be, a little Cub Scout, about 4 feet tall, cute as a button in my little Cub Scout uniform, coming back on the camping trail, crying, hiding in the bushes, hoping no one would see me, embarrassed out of my mind, with about 8 cans of tall Coors Light beer cans, holding them in my arms, crying, embarrassed at my dad. And you know, on Father's Day, my dad would always be mad because his Father's Day card was nowhere to be had. But I'm sorry, Dad, I never found the section in the Hallmark stand that had cards that said, "Thank you for ruining my life, Dad. Thank you for ruining my life, Dad. Thank you for ruining my life, Dad. Thank you for ruining my life, Dad." I'd like to thank you all for listening to my story. I'd like to thank the Cub Scouts of America. But most of all, I'd like to thank these United States of America. Because my father was the Drunken Cub Master of Pack 648, the Hacienda Heights, California. Right here in these United States of America. God bless America. All right, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. When I was about 28, I decided to stop speaking to my parents because I figured that watching them drink themselves to death was not going to add anything to my life. So I did not go and see my dad and his sociopath second wife, my stepmother. She was a horrible, nasty person. All right. So that concludes it. She was a horrible, nasty person, and she wanted me to come out and see my dad. And I said, forget it, because I didn't want to remember my dad in the hospital bed, screaming at the nurses, not even remembering who I was. I just wanted to remember him as the Drunken Cub Master, So anyway, that's Todd Taylor, and this is Mark Selzer, and this has been Pod Potatoes. Thanks a lot. See you next time.